So my last video explained why you need to have wheat berries in your long-term food storage, even if you never grind them and make flour. Now, I'm not saying don't grind them. They make delicious bread and baked goods, and you can even combine your ground flour with cream or milk and a little sugar, and you got cream of wheat for cereal. But this video isn't talking about ground or milled wheat berries. We're talking about the wheat berries themselves and what can you do with them. Well, let me tell you, you can do a lot with them. You could make a breakfast cereal from them, salad, add them to soups, to stews, even have side dishes with them, and even make desserts and snacks from your wheat berries. And I'm going to show you how to make at least one of each of those. So come on along and see how I use wheat berries. Now, first off, the general rule is 1 part wheat berries equals about 2 parts cooked. So just keep that in mind when you're making your recipe. Now, the first thing you have to understand about wheat berries is, wow, they're hard. They'd be very tough on your teeth if you didn't cook them somewhat. And there's a whole bunch of different ways to cook them. So I'm going to go into some of those ways right now. Now, if it's an SHTF situation and your cooking fuel is at a premium, then the best way to do it is by using a thermos. What you want to do is heat your wheat berries and water, and you want, it's not a 1-to-1 ratio. You want a little bit more water than an equal, like if you're doing 1 cup, 1 cup. You might want 1 cup and a third water. But bring them to a boil, then place them in your thermos, tighten it up well. You might even want to wrap your thermos in blankets or something, and then lay it on its side on the counter overnight. And the next morning, you just got to drain them, and you've got cooked wheat berries for your cereal or any other dish you're going to make. So make sure you always have a good thermos. Now, to me, the best way to make wheat berries is using a pasta pot. And what is a pasta pot, you might ask? Well, it has little, see those little holes there? Okay, so you put your, let's say, 1 cup of wheat berries in 2 to 3 inches of water. You bring it up to boil, put your top on, and bring it down to a simmer. If you don't have the pasta pot, just put a lid so you have a little bit of a area there for steam to escape. That will work just fine too. Now, how long you cook it depends on how you want it. Most people overcook their wheat berries. Often, if you cook them for a full hour, they lose any of the nuttiest, kind of crunchiest that they have. So I like them more, just a little crunch left yet. So for me, maybe 15 minutes is cooking fine, but you have to test them once in a while and decide what you want. Do you want a completely soft wheat berry, or do you want a little crunch? That will depend on how long you cook it. Now, you can also use your slow cooker. Just put them in, add, again, that 2 to 3 inches of water, put your lid on, and cook them for about 3 hours probably on high. Another way to cook them is using your Instant Pot, and that's a good way if you're pressed on time. Although it doesn't save you that much time because you have to bring it up to the right temp. But anyway, they only cook for about 35 minutes. So you want to have about 1 cup wheat berries, 3 cups water, set it for 35 minutes, and you can do a quick release when they're done. You can also use a rice cooker. Just use about 4 times as much water as your wheat berries and cook them according to your rice cooker directions, and it's going to take about an hour. Now, I should mention there's something else you can do with your wheat berries. You can crack them. And what that means is you could put them in a coffee grinder or in your blender, and what it's saying, crack up the little berries, and then they get done a lot faster, and you can make more of a grape nutty type cereal if you'd like. Now, that cracked wheat is also great for using as a meat filler. Let's say putting it in your hamburgers so it extends your meat. One of the questions I get is, but what do wheat berries taste like? Well, if you've never had them, it depends on how long you cook them. You know, straight out of the box, they are extremely hard. The longer you cook them, the softer they get. You don't want to cook them till they get mushy, however. So it depends on what dish you're preparing them for, how long you cook them. And part of the thing is, when you're cooking, just occasionally take a taste and see if it's to the right consistency for your recipe. Now, some people do rinse their wheat berries and soak them overnight before they prepare them. I have found, of course, it's a good idea to rinse them, but I haven't found it really makes any difference in cooking time. Now, one of the first things you can make is cereal. So here's a recipe I found. It sounds pretty good. Caramel apple pie wheat berry porridge. And the neat thing about this is it's using fat-free and sugar-free caramel marshmallow creamer. So this is a recipe that might save you some calories. And you don't have to use that 3 cups almond milk. You could use regular milk. You can prepare it however you want. Now here is how I make breakfast cereal from my wheat berries. And you know what? It depends what I have on hand. In this case, I put on some brown sugar, a little cinnamon, and some apple, and even drizzled a little caramel on top. You know, it gets to the point where we have our wheat berries, and we have some apple slice on top. And these wheat berries are cold. I'm gonna put a little brown sugar in, much as you want, and then of course whatever milk product you use, just enough to wet it for me. I don't really like milk. Then you can eat it like this, but if you want to be decadent, put in some caramel syrup. Now, is that a dessert? Is that a cereal? You decide. Well, you know what? A lot of those box cereals that kids eat does seem more like dessert than breakfast. But you can put whatever you would like on it. You know, dried dates would be great. Any dried fruit would be good. And nuts, whatever you have handy. And you can make a great, very cost-effective cereal. Now, let's go on to lunchtime and see about making a great salad. So here's a recipe for wheat berry Waldorf salad. It has a great dressing, and it's your typical Waldorf salad, except you have wheat berries in it. Well, here's one I made, and it was absolutely delicious. I cooked my wheat berries, so they were really lost most of the crunch, but still had some give and take when you're chewing them. Anyway, it was delicious in the salad. I mean, doesn't it look like it? So maybe for lunch you want soup. You know, you can add your cooked wheat berries to any soup you've already prepared. Great in vegetable soup or beef soup. Even chicken, instead of chicken rice, have chicken wheat berry soup. Everything works with your wheat berries because basically they're a food extender. But let's look at dinner time. Now this is one of my favorite recipes that I make. It's wheat berry stew. I love it, but my husband, not so much. He's not as much of a fan of wheat berries. But I think this has just delicious taste. Now here's the recipe, but you know what? I didn't have everything on hand here. So this is how I made it. So naturally I didn't have all the ingredients that was specified. So I omitted the celery because, well, my husband doesn't like celery. And then instead of using the vegetable broth, I used chicken broth. And then I didn't want to use the diced tomatoes. Instead, I used my home canned tomato sauce. To make my meat-loving husband happy, I added diced ham. And I didn't have any Swiss chard, so I used kale. But it resulted in a flavorful, hearty stew that I highly recommend. Okay, maybe you have a different main course and you want a side dish. Well, use it to make a risotto. This, to me, broth was absolutely delicious. I really enjoyed this. I maybe had a little bit too much on the crunchy stage for my husband, so next time I guess I'll cook it a little bit longer. But I really enjoyed this for a side dish. It is a bit time consuming, plan on 45 minutes to an hour to have those wheat berries absorb all the liquid. But boy, is it delicious. So another side dish in addition to the risotto, look at this one, lemony wheat berries with roasted Brussels sprouts. I mean, doesn't that look delicious? Or here's another one, wheat berries with vegetables. And it has broccoli in it, and onions and garlic and zucchini and even eggplant. So there's a lot of side dishes you can make from wheat berries. Now remember how I said you could even make a dessert from wheat berries? Well, many European cultures do. This is an Italian recipe for cuccia, and it is made with your wheat berries and whole milk ricotta cheese, little sugar, some vanilla and cinnamon, and dark chocolate on top. So here it is. I made it for my family and they did not like it. You know, I wasn't a complete fan of it either. I think because when you look at it, you think, oh, good, tapioca pudding. And it doesn't taste like tapioca pudding. But there are other desserts to try. There's also a Polish version of this recipe. So I've also seen recipes for using wheat berries in like yogurt parfaits and other types of dishes. So you have to be the judge if your family will like wheat berries in a dessert. Now, one of my favorite ways to make them is a snack. These are crunchy little kernels. Remind me kind of corn nuts. And you can season them however you like. I mean, fantastic snack recipe. Okay, let's take a little and do our taste test. Can you hear that crunch? These are delicious. They're a lot like corn nuts, and I love corn nuts. One of the things you can do is also sprout your wheat berries, and you can use them on salad or sandwiches. My husband loves that. Or you can grow wheatgrass. And let me show you how to do both. It's really easy to grow your own sprouts. Here I just took a canning jar and I put in a cup of wheat berries, filled it up with water, put on, well, it says that you can use like a double layer of cheesecloth, but to me, I have this very fine mesh bag and I just put that over the top. And then I used a canning ring to affix the bag to the jar, because Lord knows I have enough rings. But you could just use a rubber band or whatever you have on hand. And then you're going to pour the water out and put it on its side in a dark place. And then in the morning, you're going to put more water in and drain it out. Again, put it on its side. And you're going to do that same thing at night. And within 3 to 4 days, you have beautiful sprouts. It's so easy. Now, making the wheatgrass, you just want to put your wheat berries in a jar, fill it up with water, and let it sit overnight. And then the next morning, put about a ½ inch to inch of soil in a pan and pat carefully your wheat berries that have been drained on top. And then you want to put something moist on top. Could be newspaper. In this case, I'm doing a moist paper towel. And of course it is being supervised by Xander to make sure I do it correct. And then you just put this in a dark place. I actually have double oven and I just put it in the bottom oven. And then once a day you want to replace the moist towelette. And actually it's so simple. I even skipped a couple days replacing the moist toweling and it was fine. And this is the result in only 4 days. And again, Xander is fascinated by it. And this is a livestock feed. You can help feed your rabbits and other of your livestock, or in my case, Xander. Now I have all the recipes listed down below, so you can easily get to them. And I really hope that you add wheat berries to your long-term food storage. I mean, they are so versatile and you can make so many things with them. So I'd love to hear if you have a special recipe for using wheat berries. Comment below.